Welcome back to the CrossFit Games podcast. I'm your host, Chasing Him with Adrian Bozman. Boz, we talked individual, and now we're going to talk teams for the 2022 CrossFit Games season. And what we did last time was just map out a start to finish open quarterfinals, semifinals games. And it sounds familiar. There's a reason for it. Is to create some symmetry between the divisions that we have for this season. And the teams are going to follow a very similar path as far as in order weekends at which they do. But again, it's teams of 4, 2 men, 2 women. So how we advance through will be a bit different than the individual side. But when we look at the open specifically, how are people going to set up, say, a team to compete in the open versus, say, just an affiliate?
Good question. You've got a couple of different things to do. Number one, you as an individual need to register for the open. So once you've done that, awesome. You're in the mix. And then if you want to be part of a team at an affiliate, you need to register that team independently. So that'll be a separate registration fee. And then that will designate you as the team manager. And then as that team manager, you can opt in people from your affiliate onto that team, or they can do that via their profile and select to be on your team. But it's important that one of those two things happens. Either you, the team manager, designate that you want those people on your team, or they do that from their side. It's not enough to just be registered and be part of an affiliate. You have to take that second step and put yourself as part of the team if it's important to you to contribute. And I encourage everybody to do that. It's a lot of fun to kind of have that community event and rally around it. It's a great time. So I think everybody should.
That's a little bit newer of a step than we've had in years past, because before as the affiliate, basically owner or manager would register the affiliate in his name, and then people would sign up on the affiliate and that would be their team. But there needs to be a team manager. Now it can still be the same person, but they need to separately register themselves under the affiliate, which would be managed by the affiliate owner, and then an additional team manager. But it can't be the same person. It doesn't have to be someone different, or it can be someone different, but that extra step needs to happen if you want to compete as a team in the open.
You got it. And the reason for that is we want to give affiliates the opportunity to field as many teams as they feel they want to. So if you have just a banger of a competitive affiliate and you're like, we want to have 5 teams in the open, great, have at it. We don't want to restrict how you choose to play that game.
I love it. So open, it's going to follow the same format. You don't do team workouts in the open. You just do your individual ones, and it's going to take your top 2 men and 2 women, again, who are on the team. If you're in the affiliate that doesn't put you on the team, those members need to get added manually by the team manager themselves, and that will be your team affiliate score for that particular weekend.
That's exactly it. So top 2 men and top 2 women scores will combine together to represent the team score for that particular workout, and then that repeats for the 3 weeks of the open. So you nailed it.
And one question I had, and that I've seen this, is, we're looking at the Affiliate Cup again, and, is anybody going to tackle the dominance that is the affiliate of CrossFit Mayhem? And, back in the day, the Affiliate Cup was named, 2009 was the first year that we really had that. And it was more like this format. There wasn't actually like a formal team. It was more like individual scores came together as your affiliate score based off basically who signed up for the CrossFit Games. Almost saying, the 09 you did have a qualifying process like regionals. And then as the years gone on and, the quote super team generation has come into play, and we've seen the same thing in the NBA, let's be real. But we did have a super team era where like affiliate boundaries were gone, and people were like, they thought that was going to be a good idea. It actually was one of the worst team competitions we saw, what we thought would be the best, because Mayhem was even better and they still did the same thing. Last year, you guys put more restrictions as far as who can attend that affiliate within 100 miles and be a part of that team. You kept the same rules this year as you had last year. We haven't changed anything yet. One question I had is people, there's obviously the internet's a wonderful place and everybody's so happy and nobody complains, but they see affiliate on there and then they see these athletes come together and spring through. I did have a question out there, is that, the individuals in competition are confined to their citizenship where they go to semifinals. as well as quarterfinals. Is there any discussion of possibly using that same citizenship restriction for athletes choosing to go team?
Not at this point. We think that the tie to the physical affiliate is enough at this stage. That's something that may evolve in the future, but we don't have any plans for that for the team competition as such. What is important to us is that this is across CrossFit in general, not just for the games and for that avenue of the company, but it's really important that we highlight how important the affiliate is to everything that we do. And that should transcend, whether that's just having the average person show up and have a life-changing experience due to the coaching that they're going to receive, all the way down to how it reflects in the competition. So bringing the focus back to, all right, let's make it the gyms, let's make it the affiliates, the people that are out there doing it on, rubber meeting the road every single day. That really drives a lot of those decisions. And so anchoring it to that is, for now, it seems to be a good solution. In the future, I can't say what's going to happen 3-5 years down the line or something like that. But at this point, we don't have plans to change that.
I just like seeing the affiliate names back on the leaderboard for one. The like team big booty mix at the CrossFit Games just never really sat well with me. Seeing that on the leaderboard or having to say that on an actual broadcast.
I mean, there's some bold people out there, Chase. You never know. That could be somebody's affiliate name. You just insulted them.
That's true. It's like whatever gets people in the door, I'd love to see what that class looks like. So as we go from the open, you're taking a percentage based off the affiliate's continental boundary, not necessarily the individuals that make up that team.
Correct.
What's the percentage of teams advancing to the quarterfinals from the open?
So this is where we get a little bit of a departure from the team and the individual competition. The percentages are different. So for the teams, the top 25% in each of those continental regions, again, where the affiliate is anchored, not necessarily the people on the team, those teams will advance. So the top 25%, they're onto the next stage. Now, there's also a bit of a caveat on that where we do have a minimum threshold as well. There's some areas where 25% isn't going to represent a very large number in some of the less densely populated areas of the world, affiliate-wise, not overall population, but, as far as CrossFit is concerned. And so for that reason, we do have a minimum number of teams that will advance. And we'll have a minimum of 50 teams from each continental region represented at quarterfinals, if that number is, smaller than what 25% would be.
Now, in the open, you don't really have to designate your team until you qualify for the quarterfinals. How does, once the team qualifies in that top 25%, how do they go about selecting that group of people representing the team officially going forward?
So the people that have been assigned or have signed up onto their teams during the open, they are now officially part of the roster for that team. So it doesn't matter if their scores were the ones that put the team over the edge into qualifying position or not. If you're on that team roster, meaning you signed up for that team during the open, you are eligible to be selected to work through the quarterfinals. So it's up to the team to designate the 6 people, which would be 4 people competing and 2 alternates, so 3 men and 3 women, that are ultimately going to move to the next stage. And then when they begin the quarterfinals competition, it's going to be 2 men and 2 women, and the same 2 men and 2 women that start the competition have to see it all the way through.
And what's nice here is, and we had this last year, was that the team quarterfinals will not be held on the same weekend as the individual. So you can be on the team roster and still compete in the quarterfinals individually and maybe even advance to the semifinals and then come back the next week, so to speak, and still compete on team until you've actually decided which one you wanted to do prior to accepting invites to semifinals. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So if you look at the timing on the calendar, we have the open, then we have a week off, and then we have the individual quarterfinals. Then we have a week off, and then we have the team quarterfinals, then a week off, and then the age divisions. So there's time built into the schedule for everybody who qualifies in multiple divisions should they choose to, they can engage in all of those quarterfinals and basically spread out their odds to qualify on to the next stage if they choose to do that. And there will be, I fully expect there's going to be athletes that qualify in all three. I think you're going to have some athletes that come out of the Open qualifying in the age group categories and on a team and individually. I love that you're calling your shot, Chase. That's good.
Well,
That's
I may
good.
have dabbled in that last year, and
Yeah,
I do love that because you're giving people more opportunities to compete. But I think it's
absolutely.
cool from a sports perspective is that this is the depth and breadth of athlete that we have. They're
I
elite from an
completely agree.
individual perspective. They can be on a team. They're masters athletes. And all that being said,
And
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, from the underlying ethos of the sport is we want to reward the person who's the most well-rounded. So, what a great expression of that! If you have somebody that comes out and qualifies in multiple divisions, I think that's just so cool. So, I am also a big fan of athletes that are able to do that, having the option to do so. They can engage with as many or as few of those competitions as they want. All you got to do is qualify. No big deal.
Now, I love that you said you want to reward them. So this is my next question. As you know, we adapt and evolve. Could we possibly reward these people maybe with more varied program going into this
Ah,
year,
that's a good
as
question.
opposed to maybe
And
that they had last year? I'm just
yeah.
somewhat I heard on the grapevine, not me personally, of course, because like I said, I didn't raise my hand earlier, but is
Oh,
that
you should
something
own
maybe?
that.
No, yeah. I can only improve my 4 rep max squat so many times
Across 2 weeks.
across
Yeah,
three
fair enough.
weekends.
Hey, that is definitely one of the things that we heard last year, loud and clear, that we needed more variation from, team to individual to age group quarterfinals. And so, yes, this year those tests are going to be much different. Now, there's going to be some thematic similarities, and there's going to be some format similarities. The competition structurally is going to remain the same at that stage, but the tests themselves, the workouts themselves, yes, we hear that loud and clear. There's definitely one of the takeaways from last year's season is that we need a little bit more variety there. So you can expect that for sure.
Yeah, it was just a little bird. I don't know where I heard that from. Just off the top of my head when you
I
said
might have
reward.
I might have heard that one too, once or twice.
What I that's wonderful to hear. It makes me more excited about the next level. And that's what I said is like, I love the quarterfinals. We talked about that on the individual side. I think it's a wonderful thing for the affiliates. I think it's a wonderful thing for the game season. That part made it not as fun last year. Whereas this year is like, man, I can't wait to do individual and then see what comes if we make a team. And then if I qualify as a match, I can't wait to do that. And that just, it gives athletes more opportunities to be more engaged and more involved. And I
Yeah.
just think that's better for everyone.
Well, hey, careful what you wish for, because there's a few workouts on the team side that they're very classic in the sense where you look at them on paper and you're like, yeah, I don't think that's going to be so bad. But you see some of the testing results come back and it's like, ooh. So,
It's like,
yeah,
so I
it'll
have
be
now
fun.
designated myself to all first alternate. Would anyone else like to come in?
Okay.
All right. So you get set for quarterfinals. We get varied programming, is what I'll say, is going into that with your 2-2 from start to finish. It'll follow the same time format as far as events getting released all at once, but due dates of a specific number on a timestamp basis, a lot like what we had last year and a lot like what we'll see for the individual.
That's exactly right. So it's going to be a Thursday through Sunday competition. For most people, time zones are going to be obviously a factor. People could be competing online from their home gyms and affiliates and all that. But yes, Thursday Pacific time through Sunday Pacific time, very similar to what was happening in 2021. So we'll have all the floor plans available ahead of time, and then the full workout details will follow on Thursday. There'll be some time gates for when certain workouts are going to be due. And within that, it's going to be up to the team whether or not they want to redo those workouts. And, they have some decisions that they can make about the order that they choose to do them in, as long as they meet those submission deadlines. And so if you think about the competition broadly, we talked about this a little bit during the individual portion. But the idea is when you go through the open, you have a lot of wiggle room. You can redo workouts, you can kind of pick your time of day. You know, if you look at the other extreme where you get to the games, none of that is within your control. You're going to show up, you're going to get one shot. It's going to be a lot of pressure to perform. So as we progress from the open to the games, it's important that we kind of step that pressure up incrementally. It doesn't happen all at once. So the quarterfinals represents that next step where there's a little bit more time crunch, there's a little bit less of your personal preference, but within it, there's still a lot of opportunity to put your best foot forward. So we're trying to create that balance at the quarterfinal stage.
One thing unique to the team side versus any other division is that you have 4 people competing as a team. Pretty easy to do in person, much different challenge to do, say, in quarterfinals. Where the open, it's the individual athletes' scores basically added together to create a
Yep.
team score. How much are you guys looking at in this quarterfinals of making a bit more team-oriented competition versus I say last year is still very open-esque that they had in the quarterfinals on the team side?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another criticism that I think was fair from last season. Was that the teamsmanship wasn't a highlight of the quarterfinals, and to some degree, again, thinking along this progression from open to games to semis. I'm sorry, open to quarters to semis to games. There's less need to really highlight that at this stage, but rest assured, we are going to highlight it much more than we did last season. So at the quarterfinals, you can absolutely expect there's going to be workouts that teamsmanship is going to come into play. You're going to need to work together as a group. No question about it. So practice up. Start now.
Yeah, start now. Start now. I love it. And so from the quarterfinals, we look towards the semifinals. Now, we said we have 10 different semifinals around the world, separated continentally boundaries, 4 in North America, 2 in Europe, 1 in Asia, 1 in Australia, 1 in Africa, and 1 in South America. We had 30 individual men and women advance for each individual one. How many teams in these quarterfinals advance individually per semifinal?
So it's going to be 20 teams from each region. And so we've got 4 semifinals in North America. That'll be a total of 80 teams, 2 in Europe. So that'll be a total of 40 teams, and then 20 in every other region.
And then we talked on the individual side as how you allocate these teams, especially in say something like North America and Europe. The other ones,
Yep.
they're pretty straightforward when you only got one.
Yep.
Are you going to base in the same way as merit first and then geographically second?
That's right. Yeah. So not the qualification process, the seeding process for the regions that have multiple semifinals. So North America and Europe. Yes, we're going to look primarily at merit based on quarterfinal standings. So how you do in the quarterfinals is going to have a big hand in the distribution of those teams, because the goal is to try to get a pretty even distribution of talent across those semifinal events. That way we don't have one event that looks like it's just completely stacked with the top teams, even though it still has only the same amount of qualifying positions, and it just makes more sense for the competition. So
It's like
that's going to be
the old Central East days, and then for me, where I
of
was I
course,
was
of
swimming in the
course.
South Central days. So,
The hardest regional to qualify from.
and
Of
one
course,
thing,
everybody knows it. It
yeah,
was
one thing that
Chase's region.
does, yeah, exactly. Get out of my
Well,
region,
let
guys. Go back to
let me finish
Ohio.
that thought. Let me finish that thought. The secondary consideration is going to be geographical, and the idea behind that, obviously, competition is a big motivating factor to make decisions. So we want to make sure we get that right. But the semifinal events are independent partners, and those event organizers are going to have hometown heroes, so to speak. They're going to have athletes that it would really benefit the event for them to be there locally. And so we do want to consider that as well as a secondary criteria, that local athletes that it makes sense for the competition should remain close to those regions that they're coming from.
Well, I think that's cool because these semifinals who are independently run, yet partners of the CrossFit Games home office, is that you want them to succeed and you want to be able to provide just as much of an exciting event here as you would want over there. And say overloading one may take away from another, and having this balance across let's say 4 when we're speaking North America, because there's so many, is that it gives every semifinal basically an equally exciting event to run with the athletes that they get.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the groups that we talked to last year, we talked to a lot of people, one of which is our internal athlete council that we discuss a lot of ideas with those guys and we take their input really seriously. They were really surprisingly hardline on qualification due to competition standings. They almost exclusively thought that that's the only criteria we should accept, and that a rank and distribution based on rank was it. That's what we should start and end with. There are other groups that disagreed, and we came around to tempering that a little bit with this idea that geography does matter, and there are some things to consider there that makes events better, and it doesn't just have to do with that cut and dry rank. So we tried to strike a balance between those.
And if someone's trying to understand the difference of the two, is that if it's just pure rank, say North America is like, okay, all the ones, twos, threes just get
Exactly.
spread out and it's just by the numbers. And, if you're just looking at
That's right.
performance based, I get that. But I also do like that you guys are taking into consideration, especially for these semifinals, of having athletes popular to that region competing in those regional semifinal event locations. So I do like a blend of the two. So we have the seating as far as performance based and geographical based. That's set, and I really like the blend that you guys have there. But there again, there's always a looming thing because we're still not out of COVID land. In that the potential of doing something virtual on the team side still in play, just like it is for the individual.
Yep, you got it. And we learned a lot last year where we had to do half of the semifinal events online. 5 out of the 10 last season were placed online. And so we're pretty comfortable running those events online should we have to do that. However, it's our hope that we won't have to do that. We're pretty optimistic that come May and June, we'll be at a place that live events are going to be very possible. We got a lot of confidence from the semifinal organizers so far, and we're going to be watching and monitoring those obviously very closely in the regions that they're going to be hosted in. So it's our goal that we absolutely prioritize the in-person competitions there. But second to that, I guess you could even say more importantly than that, is that the athletes and the teams that have qualified to that stage of competition get an opportunity to compete. And so if that means we have to make some concessions and make some online events so that everybody gets their fair shake at the qualification process, we are fully prepared to do that and planning on contingencies. Now, I mentioned this also in the individual podcast that we did, but I don't mean to sound cryptic and not giving more details around that, but it's really difficult to give specifics when we're dealing with the shifting sands of the whole world. What the response is going to look like in a month, in 3 months, in 5 months when we get down the pipe to the semifinals, it's pretty unpredictable. So rest assured, we have a lot of thought that goes into making sure everybody gets their opportunity to compete. What that looks like right now, we're not ready to put that out. And more so because we don't want to put something out now that ends up changing and people either get old information or they're working off a model that's no longer relevant. And that's very difficult to kind of, recreate. So we just want to make sure that we have, when the plan, let me back up, if the plan has to be online and include events that are no longer live, we'll be very clear what that looks like, and rest assured that we are definitely considering options for that, and we're going to have a plan no matter what.
So teams take on the semifinals, albeit in person and potentially virtual, but we'll say in person for good vibes. And
Yeah,
they
fingers
go
crossed. Everybody
fingers
competes live.
crossed,
That's
and they advance directly to the CrossFit Games. And as we said on the individual, we have a
that's right.
bit more of a open net of days available for competition. As you said on the individual, it's a Wednesday to Sunday block off as far as what's happening when. We have yet to release that information, but it's on the table as far as where the teams are going and what they have available in store for them coming towards the 2022 CrossFit Games.
That's right. And one thing I do want to highlight, since you brought it up earlier about athletes that are going to compete in multiple divisions, possibly, when you make that shift to semifinals, there's going to be a slightly different thought process there. So this is something important to kind of go back around to that I missed earlier. But let's say you have somebody like yourself who's a mega athlete. You're going to qualify in the age group. You're going to qualify on a team, and you're going to qualify individual. Awesome. At quarterfinals, you can do all of those competitions that you qualify for, no problem. Let's say, again, you qualify in all three divisions moving forward to the semifinals. At that point, you're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to choose which one of those three that you'd like to compete at during that live competition. And that really is out of fairness. The way that competition schedule is structured, not everybody that is in those multi-qualifying spots would have the opportunity to compete at every semifinal that they qualified for. So if we can't offer it for all athletes, and some athletes would have a conflict, it's not fair for us to offer to any athlete. So that's our approach there is at semifinals, you need to make sure that you are making a choice as to where you compete if you're qualifying out of multiple divisions. So for
I
all you
like
hot
that.
shots out there,
Yeah. Hey,
the easy, after all that rambling, the easy way to think about it is quarterfinals is wide open to you. Do as many of those competitions that you qualify for. Once you get down the pipe to semis, you've got to make a choice, and you get one ticket to semifinals.
and that's between individual and team, but there is a little back hole window just maybe for the age groupers, depending on, because they're not going to have an in-person semifinal. So
Right.
who knows what could happen there. We
Well,
will.
I would say it's important to sit it there and say that the rule is the same. Those age groupers still they get one opportunity. They can take that opportunity to compete in the age group semis if they qualify there, or the
Okay.
individuals or the teams for the same reason.
Ooh, I like
Because
that. I love that. I
and again,
love
if you
that.
look at it, on the calendar, there's two groups of age group semifinals that are happening. And maybe this is a little bit too much in depth for a team competition, but just so everybody's on the same page, you will have those two online semis for the age groups this year. Now, depending on where you are in the world, your live semi might fall on that same weekend. And so, again, it's not fair that some athletes would have a conflict and some would not. Therefore, we cannot offer that across the board to people. It just wouldn't be appropriate to give, through luck of the draw and geographical location alone, some athletes more opportunity than others.
Oh,
So for that reason,
I still think you guys are being generous going through the quarterfinals. Like I was just like, how fun it would be if it's just like pick before the open starts and let the
call your
chips fall
shot.
where they may. Yeah, call your shot
Yeah.
now. You can't put your foot out of 6 different doors to get through to the
Yeah.
semifinal. So I do like you guys
Well, and
give the
it's
options there.
again, the way I think about the games pathway is always like one big funnel, right? And so if you think about the open, the funnel is nice and wide. Closer you get to the games, it just gets real narrow. And so semifinals, again, starts to reflect that, especially when you're comparing the quarters to the semis.
Yep. And the teams, again, they're following the same path as the individual. The top of the funnel, we have the open, quarterfinals, semifinals, boom. CrossFit Games, again, that week block off from Wednesday to Sunday in that first week
Yep.
of October. Well, that is your season in a outlined rendition of what's coming up for the 2022 CrossFit Games season. Should you want to go the team route, we'll have much more available for you guys. Again, we've done one for the individuals, but you age groupers, teenagers, adaptive, and occupational athletes, we have more information coming down the pipe for you. For now, Adrian Bozman, Chase Ingham, thank you guys for joining us.